Today we got a brand new reveal for the upcoming Lyrical Monasterio reveals today, as we've got...
wrong.
What was that? Anyways, as I was saying, we got a new ride line for the upcoming Lyrical Monasterio.
You made a mistake.
Really? Okay. Are we done? I want to do my intro. So, as I was saying, I swear to God! Okay, you guys are right. I made a mistake. Except for you, it's a smirk, okay? It's not creepy. Maybe a slight, but it's a smirk. It's playful. But... as I was saying, I made a small mistake in my previous Cardfight update where I accidentally mixed Genshin Kaching with Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, as Clarissa is actually the one that's doing the whole with field power-up thing, and the Kaching lookalike is the one that's gonna play with the gems. But... technically speaking, I'm also not incorrect, because I was mainly referring to the fact that the next ride line that would be revealed would give us more insight for the precious gem mechanic. And hold on, behold, the next ride line was revealed today, which is the Kaching lookalike ride line. So technically I'm not wrong, but I'm actually very, very wrong. But that aside, let's take a look at these new cards and see what the new upcoming ride line for the precious gem mechanic will bring to the table for Lyrical Monasterio. Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we've got a brand new ride line for Lyrical Monasterio. I believe it's the second to last ride line that's going to be revealed, and this time we got yet again a new order mechanic, which is completely different from what we saw with all the other specific order mechanics. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into these cards, because we not only have the ride line to go over, we also got two new special orders and some support cards to talk about. But before we can dive into these cards, I want to give a quick reminder to what we already know, because we saw 3 special support cards for this mechanic. We got this grade 1, this grade 2, and this grade 3. We can basically ignore the grade 3 because we're going to see a better replacement for the grade 3 in the new support, but the grade 1 and the grade 2 are going to be very important. The grade 1 allows us to get a order from the drop in our hand for, I believe, a Soul Blast and a discard, or it could be a Counter Blast and a discard. But this is going to be very important because we're going to need to resolve those orders as consistently as possible every single turn. And the grade 2, on the other hand, allows us to, once we have 2 orders with the same name in the drop zone, to put 1 in the soul and 1 back to the bottom of the deck. And that going to the soul is very important because we need to have those cards in the soul to activate certain skills with our main grade 3. But it all will be clear the moment that we see these cards in action. So, without any further ado, let's jump straight into these cards, and we're going to start off not with the ride line, but with the 2 special order cards, because everything going to revolve around these orders. So first off, we have this grade 0 normal order in the likes of True-Hearted Ruby. It's a normal order, but I believe it's also regarded as a precious gem, so all these skills that refer to as these gem cards, they're talking about this and the other order card. So this Ruby has the ability, play this with cost, Counterblast 1, draw 2 cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it, and put this card into your soul. So Counterblast 1, draw 2, it's fine because you discard 1 Counterblast to draw 2, so you stay equal on resources. But you need to discard a card, which might not be all too great, because that means you're not going to cycle through cards, you're going to lose some card advantage. But you're gonna make up for it in the long run, and being able to put this card once you resolve the order card into the soul is going to be very important, because not only will you have skills that interact with that, but you have a lot of skills that also soul blast, so being able to generate soul is going to come a long way. Now, as for the second order card, we've got yet another grade 0 normal order, which is Everlasting Sapphire, which is again one of those precious gem cards. And this has the effect, choose one of your units and it gets power plus 5k, and until the end of turn, put this card into your soul. So this is a discard to give a unit plus 5k power, which isn't the greatest value, but it's still free power that you're gonna generate, and by able to put this card into the soul will then fuel for other effects. So on the surface, this might not sound all too great, but in the contrast of the entire engine, it actually makes a lot of sense. And also keep in mind, if these cards are in the drop zone at some point, you can use the grade 2 to put those gems directly into the soul without needing to use their order effect in the first place. So there are different ways how we can get these cards into the soul and getting their value in the value engine itself. It's just that these orders have this extra effect on top of it to just put them into the soul and gain some effects while you're doing this. So with the order cards explained, let's go over the ride line and see what we're actually doing with these order cards. And we're going to start off with the grade 0, which is Brilliant Gemstone own Willista. And Willista has basically generic starter skill, so we don't really have to explain anything here, so we can immediately move up to the grade 1. And for the grade 1, we have Proof of Effort Willista, and this Willista has the effects, although when this is written on, cost, put a card from your hand into the soul, search your deck for a precious gem card, so one of the 2 orders, add it to your hand and shuffle your deck. So this is actually really nice because it allows you to effectively cycle through the deck as you get 1 card from the deck by wasting a card from your hand into the soul. But it's actually really good. It's a filter, it's a search, so it sets up your game plan. And the card that you put in the soul can fuel your soul blasting skills. But more importantly, you can just put one of those gems from your hand directly into the soul if you don't want to waste either your counterblast or discard for the power and you think this is more worth it. You can set that up as well. So you have choices here, and further than that, it doesn't cost you any resource. So this is actually a really nice skill to set up your plays. But then she also has a Rearguard Circle skill, which is auto on Rearguard Circle. When you play in order, costs Soul Blast 1. Until the end of turn, this unit gets power plus 5k. Interesting enough, it's not once per turn, and as we saw with the grade 3 from last week, or from the last week reveals, there is an opportunity to use more orders in a single turn, so we could effectively stack this, but then we have to question ourselves, is it worth it the soul? Maybe, maybe not, but we have to figure that out once we see more cards. Now, moving up to the grade 2, we see Expanding World Willista, which has the effect auto on Vanguard Circle once a turn. When you play a precious gem, draw 1. Now, this is something I really like, because now suddenly both the grade 0 gem cards are actually worth it on turn 2. And as soon as we immediately search 1 from the deck the moment that we write on top of the grade 1, we can immediately use them because they're grade 0s and get this free draw. This will make the Ruby as well as the Sapphire definitely worth the cost, because you don't lose out on card advantage, and more importantly, you gain something and you put one of those gems in the soul, setting up for your big plays. So this is already really great. But then she also has the second effect, which is actually pretty nice, which is continues on Guardian Circle. For every 2 precious gems cards in your drop zone, this unit gets shield plus 5k. That stacks! So if you're starting to load up on those gems in the drop zone through going for your engine, you can have a big shield on your hand. And I can definitely see this thing being a 10k shield on most cases, but it could go up to 15 or 20k maybe. So I like this a lot, and I think this is one of those rare instances where the main grade 2 of the right line is going to see play in the main deck by the sheer fact that using her as a grade 2 on the field and then intercepting with it or just guarding from hand is actually pretty viable. So I like this a lot. But then if we move up to the grade 3, we can definitely see what's going on here and we understand what this whole engine is trying to do. So here we have Prismagica Willista, which has the effects Act on Vanguard Circle, cost Soul Blast 1 True-Hearted Ruby. Until the end of turn, this unit gets power plus 15k and your opponent cannot intercept. And she also has the effect auto on Vanguard Circle, cost Soul Blast 1 Everlasting Sapphire. Look at the top 5 cards from your deck, choose up to 2 unit cards from among them, call them to the open Rearguard Circle, discard the remaining, and until the end of turn, the called units get power plus 5k. So this is the reason why we want to play these gems, because now we can put them into the soul via their own skills or other effects, and then we can soul blast them with the grade 3 to gain massive power on the board, get free value, because those 2 calls that we're doing from the deck doesn't cost us counterblast. It does cost us 1 soul, but that soul fixes itself, which is actually really good. This allows us to keep the cards in our hand for defensive options, as we can rely on the rest. And yes, we need to mill the other cards to the drop zone, but this will synergize with the previous grade 1 and grade 2, and even the grade 2 of the right line, because if there are a couple of gems in the top 5, we suddenly load up the drop zone with those gems, and then we can use those other effects to then either send them back to the deck, or send them to the soul, or potentially have more guard value in our hand, which is actually really great, because that synergizes with everything. And just putting extra power onto the board is actually really nice, but there is one big difference between this and what we've seen with all the other Lyrical Monasterio decks, and that's that this deck probably won't multi-attack. This looks to be like a very high free attack deck that just generates value after value after value. So it's a value game. That's at least the suspicion that I'm getting from these order cards and how this engine actually works. Now, interesting enough, they're not once per turn. So if you can stack up and load up on these order cards in the soul, you can use them multiple times, but be careful with the Sapphire one, because you're going to mill fast through your deck. So you don't want to overextend on that one, because deck out can definitely be a thing, especially since you only have 3 attacks, because that means if your opponent has a couple of perfect guards, they can probably stall the game a couple of turns. So you need to be careful when resolving this effect. It's similar to what Eugene is, but I feel like this deck does have a bit more firepower than Eugene, because we have the whole Lyrical Monasterio engine to their disposal to potentially put extra things in this deck. But that said, that doesn't mean that this whole engine doesn't have any dedicated support cards, because she has. And the support card actually looks pretty good, because besides the grade 1 and the grade 2 that we already talked about, we also have another grade 1, which is Quiet Charity Ellie Villa. And Ellie Villa has the ability Auto Rigard Circle. When you play Everlasting Sapphire, if your Vanguard is grade 3 Willista, draw 1. Again, this really shows that this deck is going to be a value engine, because now you draw a card on top of the fact that you're using the order card, which is actually pretty good, because now the Sapphire one, which it puts itself in the soul and give 5k power to the board, actually is just a cycle that gives you a soul and power on the board, which is actually really good. It doesn't cost you anything. And this means on turn 2, you can use that, and you draw a card with the grade 2 of the Vanguard skill, and then if you move up to the grade 3, and you use that Sapphire again, and you have this grade 1 on the board, you again will then cycle it over and over again, which is actually really good. With those cycles and all those draws, you're going to draw into your other orders, which allows you to basically get your engine going, and you just keep this whole combo extended as long as you draw the right cards. And you might think to yourself, now hold on a moment, what's the point of using the order to draw into another order, because you can only use one order, right? Well, yes, but also technically no, because we have the grade 3 from last week. If we place, we can do another order, but we got a better card to do that, which is this grade 3, Deep Affection Otilier, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm gonna go with Otilier. And her effect is Auto Rigard Circle. When you play True Hearted Ruby, so where the grade 1 synergizes with the Sapphire, this card specifically synergizes with the Ruby. If your Vanguard is grade 3 Willista, until the end of turn, this unit gets power plus 10k, and you can play an additional order this turn. You can play additional for each time you use this ability. So this grade 3 actually allows you to go off, because the Ruby allows you to draw 2 cards. So you can use the Ruby, draw 2 cards, draw into another Ruby, but because you have this card on the field, she gains an extra 10k power, and you can use the other Ruby, and then again, count plus 1, draw 2 cards, and just go and dig through your deck, and every time you use the Ruby, you can use another one, because she allows you to do that, which is kind of ridiculous. This whole engine is pretty interesting because it revolves around these 2 specific order cards that goes to the soul after using your skills, but the whole engine is about keep drawing cards where you can dig through your deck, but also pumping power on the board, where this grade 3 can be a massive attacker, your Vanguard can be quite massive, and then also you can superior call multiple cards to the field if you want to conserve your hand. And while you're doing that, you stack up those gems in your soul, which then allows you to soul blast them with the Vanguard skill, and then you have this whole drop zone engine as well, where you can put those gems either back into the soul, back into your hand, or back into the deck, which is really interesting. And I think there's going to be even more support that's going to flush this deck out even further, because I think there's more potential to this whole engine. So I am very curious how far Bushiroad is going to take this, because it's very interesting. Now, I'm not going to lie, in terms of how strong it looks and what it can do, it looks to be a bit lackluster in comparison to the other decks, like the Felty Rosa, the Black Wings, White Wings, the Lorna Roll, as well as the starter deck, because most of them either have multi-tech potential or can do some shenanigan plays with your opponents. I believe only the Celestial, the Angel Girl, doesn't achieve multi-tacking, but I could be wrong, but she has the whole Mega Conley effect on your opponents, where you basically can rest their units and all those kinds of shenanigans. This deck doesn't have that. This is just pure value, and I don't know how good that's actually going to be, but I can definitely see the potential, because if there's some type of weird win condition or a 2 to 3 card combo that can win you the game out of nowhere, having this inherent draw engine, what this archetype basically is, can be really dangerous. So I'm very curious how far this deck is going to go, and I'm also very curious what you guys think of this archetype. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the whole Willista right line, as well as these gemstones, because it's very interesting. It's very unusual, so I can assume there's a lot of different opinions about these cards. And I'm also curious if you guys want to see this more often with other right lines or other strategies in the future, where they're gonna do something around order cards or specific order cards that you need to basically use them all through your engine to keep your your value engine going like they're doing with these gem order cards. So I'm very curious what your opinion is, so let me know down below in the comments section. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/VanguardInsider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can go to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a patron today. But with that said, I've been Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!